Our 59th class had to do with the 1920s. And I have a bit of a personal bias when it comes to the 1920s. I think it's one of the most interesting parts of U.S. history. And I felt that when I was your age, and I still feel that way. And your book coined the 1920s a unique, prosperous, and discontented time. A bit wordy, a bit prosy, but I think it's accurate. It was unique, it was prosperous, but at the same time it was discontented. So we approached the 1920s three different ways. And part one was a brainstorm. And I posed the question to the class, what comes to your mind when you think of the 1920s in U.S. history? So if you were absent, please do the same. What comes to your mind when you think of the 1920s? And oftentimes people think of jazz music, or the speakeasies, or the women's fashion and the flappers, the rise of the car, Al Capone and the mafia, radio. And honestly, some people don't know anything at all. That's why you're here, and there's nothing wrong with that. I hopefully will teach you the best I can. But I just want you to prime your brain. Think of the 1920s in a broader construct, okay? Now, part two requires a little more explanation than part one. Now, part two, I'm going to ask you to do something I call cleaning out the closet, okay? And if you're into that Eminem song, feel free to sing it. If you've never heard it, that's your choice. I'll leave that up to you. But what I did is I gave you 40 1920s events, and I asked you to put them into categories. Now, 40 events is a lot, so you're going to have to figure out where they fit in. Just enough information to where they fit into these 6 areas. Inventions and innovations. Okay, for example, the radio. Okay, number 2, America and international affairs and foreign policies. For example, how America got involved with Nicaragua. That would be an example. American domestic policies. This could be the immigration policy of 1924. Things that affect America at home. Number 2, things that affect America in the broader global scheme of things. Number 4, scandals and unrest. There were some dark times in the 1920s. There were some scandals and some real ugly scenes. Those events would fit into number 4. Pop culture and the arts. A lot of cool pop cultural things came into being. Things like baseball and Mickey Mouse and that sort of stuff. And then 6, focus on women and people of color. Kind of a mixed bag. There were some gains and there were some challenges. So I'll repeat that. Number 2, I'm going to give you a list of 40 events. If you're absent, they're on Google Classroom. And you take those 40 events and you place them in the respective boxes. Now, bear in mind, one term can fit in more than one box. That's the thinking process involved. And hopefully this will give you kind of an overview of the decade. Okay? And again, the list is too large. I'm just going to reiterate this point. The list is on class 59 of Google Classroom. I will give a printout to everybody in class. If you are absent, please print that out. And again, you're going to need to acquire enough basic knowledge on the topic to place it into a category. So hopefully I've explained part 2 adequately to where you can do it. Now the third part, the final part, is I want you to create a top 10 list of the 1920s, okay? So I want you to put number 1 as the most historically important event of the decade. And then number 2 would be the second most. Number 3 would be the third most, all the way down to number 10. Now once you have done that, I don't want you to just arbitrarily put 10 items on a list. That does you no good come AP test, right? But I want you to think about it. And once you create your list, provide me a synopsis of why you chose what you chose. Defend your thinking, okay? Like an argument, defend your thinking. And logistically, please turn this list in along with your cleaning out the closet answers, and we will call the class. Likely this is going to take 2 or 3 days. We'll see how things transpire. But hopefully this video explained it to you if you were absent, and feel free to email me or text me if this did not adequately explain things. So anyway, I look forward to seeing what you all come up with, in particular your top 10 list, and I appreciate you watching.